Bhutto, the woman and political figure, we turn to two of her longtime advisors and friends. Hussein Haqqani was an aide to Bhutto during her first term as prime minister. He's now a journalist and syndicated columnist in South Asian and Middle Eastern newspapers, and he also directs the Center for International Relations at Boston University. Mark Siegel has been Benazir Bhutto's man in Washington for decades, serving as an unofficial advisor. He has also been a longtime Democratic Party activist and now associated with the Washington law firm. He and Bhutto were collaborating on a book. First of all, I want to just extend my condolences to both of you.
Thank you.
I know this is a very sad day for you. Mark Siegel, did she have a premonition that this might happen to her?
Benazir talked about the possibility of being killed many, many times in our relationship, and I know with Hussein as well. She understood that there were risks, but she was committed to public service. She long ago decided that her greatest service in life was not to herself, not to her husband, not to her children even, but rather to democracy and to the people of Pakistan. So she understood the risk. And we talked about it. She said to me that she had great faith, and she really believed that God would take care of her, and she told me not to worry. She said she was in God's hands, and today she's in God's hands.
Hussein Haqqani, do you think she was fatalistic, that she had a strong sense she would share her father's fate, who he was such a major figure in her life?
He was the most important figure in her life. I don't think she was fatalistic in a very conscious sense, but in a subconscious sense she was. She used the term inshallah, God willing, quite frequently. And she had a tremendous ability to handle adversity. You could see her bounce back from adversity in the most difficult of circumstances.
And Mark Siegel, when just before she returned, she sent a letter to Musharraf naming 3 people she said were a threat to her, and they were all people tied to the government.
Yes.
But she sent you a follow-up email, and I'd just like to read the first 2 lines to you and to our viewers. Mark, nothing will, God willing, happen. Just wanted you to know that if it does, in addition to the names in my letter to Musharraf of October 16th, I would hold Musharraf responsible. Did she really think that?
She did, and she had reason to believe that was the case. She had asked for security for October 18th and 19th. It was denied to her. The only protection she had on those days were from the PPP workers that surrounded her. She also asked that there be a thorough investigation.
Yeah,
there was not. There was not, and there still has not been. And she continued to ask for security arrangements that were continually denied. She did believe that ultimately these things could not be happening if it wasn't for Musharraf directly.
And yet Hussein Haqqani, she was also very, very aware, she had a vivid understanding of the sort of Islamic extremist or terrorist threat, did she not?
She had a tremendous understanding of it long before others had it. I worked with her from 1993 to 1996. There were many moments in cabinet meetings which I attended where she would say that there is a genuine threat arising, that the jihadist movement is probably going to turn on us. In fact, I used to take notes from those meetings, and I was browsing through some of those notes this morning. And at that time, of course, the Pakistani military and intelligence apparatus did not believe that the jihadists could actually ever become a threat to Pakistan. They thought that they were instruments of power politics in the region. So she actually did know them. She knew that Osama bin Laden personally had been involved in an attempt to get rid of her earlier in her first term. And she was a true believing Muslim who had a genuine understanding of what Islam ought to be as a moderate force in the world, rather than the one represented by the nihilists of Al-Qaeda.
So Hussein